Hey there, global citizens. Welcome back to the Global Talks, your podcast dedicated to uncovering the joys and challenges of global citizens. My name is Josani, and I am with Global Citizen Solutions, a boutique investment migration consultancy helping expats to find their ideal citizenship by investment program outside their birth country. Did you hear the calling of the digital nomad lifestyle? Then buckle up and join us on this trip today. This is our theme. And if you think a digital nomad's life comes only with coconuts, magical sunsets, and flexible working hours at the beach, you might need a bit of a reality check. Working temporarily from other parts of the world can lead to issues such as with visas, taxes, and healthcare. But do not worry. Today, we invited an A-team of specialists for a nuanced look over digital nomadism under a legal perspective too. Joining us today is Derren Joseph, enrolled agent and partner with HTJ.TAX for the fiscal perspective on digital nomadism. Elly Earls, a British travel and lifestyle journalist who has experienced life as a digital nomad herself before settling in Portugal. And finally, Joana Mendonça, Head of Legal at Global Citizen Solutions, who is here to contribute with some thoughts under the visa perspective. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here in our studio. Hi, Derren, online joining us here. Thank you. The term digital nomad is a very broad, has a very broad meaning and connotation. So I think it would be good to share some stats and a bit of history to set a few parameters. Otherwise, the thing can become too big for us to explore in one episode only. So the term digital nomad, according to my research, started gaining traction and coming into its own in the late 2000s when the hugely popular book by Timothy Ferris, which I know Elly has written it, read it, The 4-Hour Work Week, hit the shelves. And then in the 2010s, we have the introduction of Instagram, and everyone was doing that beautiful lifestyle shot at the beach. The escalated growth of destination co-working spaces, and a lot of literature and documentaries about the digital nomad lifestyle. 10 years later, 2020, COVID-19 forced the remote workers to make it a reality, working remotely, and people realized that they didn't have to be in their offices from 9 to 5. And then, according to MBO Partners, in 2021, there was a seismic shift to remote working in the US. And basically in 2019, they accounted for 7.3 million digital nomads, whereas in 2021, they reported the double, 15.5 million, which is a 112% increase. And this is data from just one country, United States. So with all this background in mind, I'll throw the first question. So maybe that one is for Elly and Derren. So digital nomadism, I think it's a concept that is here to stay, right? But why do you think it gets such a bad connotation? How about you, Elly? What do you think?
I think I've gone back and forth on this over time. I think back in the day when I was first a digital nomad in 2010, I'd read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. I remember reading it on the bus on my way to and from the office in the UK and just like absorbed in it. I could do this. Anyway, but back then I think not many people knew the term. And those kind of small amount of people that did, the negative connotations were kind of with the bromads, which are kind of the gym bros of the digital nomad world, who would be selling horrendous online courses and ebooks, how you can become a digital nomad for $999 and all of that. And there were a lot of, I feel like back then that's what it was really associated with. And as, a female professional journalist, that didn't really chime with me.
It didn't resonate with you as well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But then I think as the years went on, more people started doing it in around about 2014, 2015. I think it changed a bit and it started becoming a bit more inclusive. And there were sort of more digital nomad communities popping up that were welcoming women and like the LGBTQ community. And for me, at that point, I felt like it was a positive thing having the term, because it was how you could identify other people doing similar things to you. And it kind of gave you a bit of a sense of belonging, like you were out there on your own in Bali or whatever, but you belonged to something. So I think it could be useful for that. But then more recently, it's become more associated with Instagram influencers. And I think it's got a bit of the negative connotation back again. But I think one other thing that is interesting about how people use the term is people say, I want to be a digital nomad. But being a digital nomad is not a profession. I was a digital nomad, but I was also a journalist.
Yes,
and it's like,
that's it, yeah.
That was my profession, digital nomad was my lifestyle, but people, I think, can look at it in the wrong way and be like, I want to be a digital nomad. I'll do whatever it takes to do that. But I think it's kind of more useful to look at it as a perspective of, this is my experience and my skills and my profession, and is there a way I can do that from anywhere? But yeah, long answer.
No, but it's perfect. I think you got the point there. You know, what is to be a digital nomad? We're actually a journalist. How about you, Derren? Why do you think it has this bad connotation?
Well, I agree with what she said, like almost 100%. It is a lifestyle rather than a profession. In my experience, it really started in the late 90s. There was a 1997 book. There were a lot of books. It was kind of like a Jungian collective unconscious kind of movement that was, coming to the surface. We had a book called Digital Nomad in 97 by Sugio Makimoto and David Manners. But I think more iconic right now was, I think that was 97 or 98 as well, The Sovereign Individual, Mastering the Transition to the Information Age, by James Dale Davidson and Lord William Rees-Mogg. So that's a UK book, so that may be familiar to many in the UK and the US, because that's become really iconic. It's like one of the favorite books of Peter Thiel, who of course is part of the PayPal mafia, Facebook early investor, Ethereum, so he has really done a lot to pump it up, and especially within the whole crypto movement. It has become like an iconic, almost biblical to some. And the reason why is because what books like these, and there were several others, I'm just picking out these two, what these thinkers who may have been ahead of their time, what they were theorizing is that this internet, or what, in the sovereign individual, they call it microprocessors, because it hadn't quite settled in yet. They believed that it would fundamentally redefine the nation state. And key to that transition would be people or individuals, professionals, entrepreneurs, investors, who found a way to use it to de-link location from economic activity. And of course, I mean, these guys predicted not just cryptocurrency, even though they didn't call it like that. They predicted NFTs. They predicted a bunch of stuff. But to me, that's where it started in the late 1990s, where people saw the potential of the internet. Now, fast forward to what happened in the early 2000s. I think it did happen, but it happened slowly, and it was popularized by people who were, let's say, at the lower side of the income ladder, right? So it became, at least in my experience, it became synonymous with, people who trying to live on a shoestring budget, pot noodles, and staying in hostels, you're backpacking. And, it, to a large extent, it may have had negative connotations, both in terms of income and in terms of a lifestyle that was very, kind of like showing off a lot. And Instagram, of course, as the other social media platforms made that possible. But, I agree, particularly Instagram. So in short, I think the negative connotation came because a certain segment of the community may have hijacked the term and it became associated with that segment. But in fact, it is a lifestyle, and a lifestyle that is enjoyed by people of various rungs of the ladder, whether they be billionaires or people who are just on minimum wage. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's a very important contribution because what we're talking about here is that people decided, the internet made easy for us to work from somewhere else that is not the office. We might still be in the same country, might still be just a cafe around the corner, but there are many levels of nomadism or remote working that seems to be encompassed altogether into digital nomadism, which is unfair because digital nomadism is a lifestyle. But now talking about the lifestyle element, I'd like to ask Elly, how was so you have an office-based job in the UK, and as you used to be an editor, right?
Yeah.
And then you moved to Bali.
Well, I actually moved to Thailand first.
Oh, Thailand. Okay. So tell us how was that? How was the move, and how do you make it possible working remotely?
Well, for me, I was in one of those professions that was quite well suited to it. So even though not many people were doing it back then, I was an editor and a journalist. So I already knew that I could do that freelance and that I could potentially do that from anywhere. The problem was not sort of being able to do it, it was kind of clients accepting that. Because back in 2010, people didn't know what digital nomadism was. They couldn't imagine the idea of someone writing an article about London from an Indonesian island. Mm-hmm. So when I sort of first quit my job and went off to Southeast Asia, I didn't tell a lot of people that I was doing it. I would occasionally be sending emails at strange times of the middle of the night. But I kind of wanted them to get used to the fact that I could deliver still the same quality of work and then tell them later that I was actually doing it from Bali. So after about 6 months or a year, I told everyone and they were completely fine with it. But back then, it wasn't as accepted a thing as it is now, for sure.
Was it hard to find work?
I already had quite a lot of good contacts and good experience, so finding work wasn't really the problem. The challenges were more around actually working remotely from Southeast Asia, like 12 years ago. The internet was terrible. I'd be in my little house in Bali trying to do a Skype call with a global CEO with my 1 meg of internet, just praying that it wouldn't go off again. And, that side of things, finding accommodation, all of those things were much more difficult back then. Yeah. So my friends and colleagues back home were all like, oh, wow, you're living the dream, you're in paradise. And I'd be kind of like on the back of a scooter driving to go and pay my water bill and just like getting really stressed. So it was... back then, it was an amazing experience, but it was pretty challenging.
It was challenging, yeah. I can imagine.
Now, I went back to Bali to spend quite a bit of time there in 2018, 2019, and it was a different universe. Mm-hmm. You turn up, everything's ready for you. It's so easy to find a guest house. Internet's amazing, 4G's amazing, so many co-working spaces. You can just land and you have your life ready for you instantly. And there were so many more people doing it as well, so the community and friendship side of it was a lot easier.
Oh, that's good.
But back then it wasn't.
Yeah.
So
there was one of the negative sides, I guess, of digital nomadism is not having the sense of community because you're in the middle of nowhere, no connects and no connections, and the lack of routine also, no?
Yeah, that, and just the transient nature of it. If you do meet someone that you click with, the chances are that one of you is going to be hopping off to Laos the next week or something. So that part of it is hard and tiring, having to make new friends, you know, every week or every month. Especially, I'm an introvert, and that really takes it out of me.
Yeah.
So the